Welcome to GameSpot presents the HotSpot. It is Wednesday, February 15th. I'm Tom Agrino. We have an excellent show for you all today, mostly because we're talking about PlayStation Vita, which is kind of out today, sort of. I don't know. Brendan Sinclair, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Tom.
Yeah, you feel good? You ready to talk about Vita? Have you touched the Vita? You haven't touched it. You have touched it.
I've touched the Vita. Who wants to touch me?
Jeez. Tom McShay, you've touched a lot of the Vita.
Yeah, I've tickled the goatsy.
Oh, we'll explain how that makes sense. Kevin Van Ord, you're not in the room yet, but we expect you later. Chris Waters.
I don't like that term that Tom uses for the rear touchpad. Don't you watch vocabulary?
Tickling the goatsy?
No, it's not. It's not. Let's never say that again.
I prefer backstroke.
Backstroking the goatsy?
Oh,
Oh gosh.
No good? I don't know.
Good lord.
It's the worst of both worlds.
Let's
Stop.
Let's stop with the whole goatsy thing. I don't know if that's the best way to start off the show. I don't know. It's not the worst way.
It is. It is the worst way.
Who here is on the side? Brendan and I had an editorial go up today that was vaguely to the effect of, is dedicated gaming hardware or handhelds the dead?
I love these definite
Brendan,
definite articles we're using. It's the goatsy, the dead,
the Vita. Brendan, you are definitely on the side that dedicated gaming hardware is not dead.
gaming hardware, or portable hardware.
Portable hardware.
Dedicated gaming portable hardware.
Yeah.
Not
okay,
dead.
where you stand.
I won't interrupt anymore.
No, I want to. Now's your time to speak.
Well, no, you guys have to. What are your sides?
No. I just want to. Before we get into this, I want to see where everyone is
Okay,
at on this issue.
so
Brendan
Brendan
looking
is
at the baseline argument. Is that what you want?
Yeah, I just want to know where you stand on portable gaming in general.
Do you want me to make the case or just say
No, just
my position?
your position is
Gaming,
the same
dedicated
timer.
gaming handhelds, not dead.
not dead.
Ooh.
McShay,
I'm there. That's the same place I am.
they are not dead. Not dead.
They are not the dead.
Tell me, are they the dead?
No.
No, they're not the dead.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so.
So, with that in mind, we totally have a bias crew for the Vita. I'd imagine. I don't.
And you?
No, I think that they're dead. Dedicated gaming hardware is dead. I lay out a portion of my arguments in that editorial, which I believe is on GameSpot.com right now.
Isn't there like 10 million 3DSs out there or something? And like
About 8.5.
There's about
I think.
there's 8.5 million
10 to 12.
3DSs out there.
right.
10 to 12. Just there's a lot of 3DSs.
Yeah. Can we define what you mean by dead?
do you mean
like,
by
does
dead?
not have a good future? Because obviously,
Yes.
clearly, dead currently is not what you're arguing for. Because the
Perhaps
Vita is out.
moribund would
right
be
now.
a better
So
phrase.
do you envision a
Convalescent?
future when
No, convalescent means getting better.
no, it does not actually.
When they put your
Convalescence.
mom in a convalescent home,
She ain't coming back.
Okay.
So
That's like
you,
a hospice.
what
That
you
is like a
you
hospice.
envision
That's
it?
the word I would use.
You envision So goatsy. Okay, never mind.
I don't know why you just said goatsy.
So if we're sidetracked with hospice talk, the goatsy is more interesting.
I know it is.
if
We're going to
you're-
get to goatsy in a minute.
It's actually relevant to the Vita. That's the difference.
Vita?
See, this helps because I've actually never seen goatsy. I only know that it's gross.
You've never seen
I
it?
know, isn't it great?
There was a time...
I haven't either, but
there
I
was a
know what it
time
is,
in,
and it's horrible that you keep saying it.
in GameSpot.com News' history where we were trying to line up our you remember this, Brendan, you remember this, where we were trying to make images on the GameSpot News Hub that would roughly approximate goatsy. Like we had that great Grand Theft Auto 4 art where like
Oh, he's doing the fingers.
I'm not looking.
Nico is kind of doing something like this, and then we had like a world below it. I don't know. That is irrelevant.
I disavow all knowledge of what the hell Magrino's talking about.
You ordered it. So you ordered the code red.
Okay, so anyway.
So I got a question, Magrino.
Okay.
Do you envision a future where a new Mario game comes out that does not sell millions?
On a dedicated portable device.
Either way.
I'm saying
either way it works. We're talking about
before
portables.
that happens, Nintendo will exit the dedicated gaming hardware.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying the 3DS will be their last entry in that?
Hardware
field?
I'm not going to say that it will be the last because Nintendo holds on too long. I am saying this will be Sony's last.
What do you mean by holds on too long?
They will.
They'll say like, "Hey,
continue-
cartridges are still viable."
You
and
can
that
make
we
an
don't need to
argument that
jump
the
to CDs."
N64 cartridges were better than the PlayStation CDs. And a very easy case.
You can also make the argument that the cartridges basically seeded the console
Yeah.
wars for that generation to Sony.
Totally agree. Because I mean it was cheaper to do CDs, but you had massive load times and it stunk. That's why that's like the lost generation. Is 'cause
Okay.
both those systems sucked. But I don't think Nintendo does hang on too long. I don't know
That's not the
where it's coming
argument right now.
from.
Let's forget I said that. Let's get to the Vita. You guys have spent some significant time with the device. What are your initial thoughts now that you've played a good 8 to 10 hours or however long your game took? Who wants to go first?
So many deviants, hours and hours of deviants. So I reviewed Little Deviants.
Right.
6.0 game it does not use any buttons or analog sticks at all. It is purely, look what this can do. We got touchscreens, we got motion sensors, we got cameras, we got microphones.
So this is all just to show off the Vita and what it can do.
Yeah, kind of a tech demo.
It technically uses buttons, and that you fire with buttons.
Oh crap!
But that's
right. You
ignore
use
that
the
I said that.
You do use the
Ignore
shoulder buttons. Good call, Tom.
It's mostly all touch and stroking.
Yeah, so playing it,
touching,
and
a lot of
it's
stroking.
it's a game where you because in your various permutations of these mini games that you're playing, you go from holding it like this to holding it to tilting to holding it like lengthwise to and then like adapting different holds to maximize your ability to tap different areas of the screen in a certain mini game. I had fun with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's the hardware is really responsive. The touchscreens front and back, like I was finding myself able to reliably touch points on the rear touchpad.
What points did you touch?
That correspond to things on the screen? And
What happened
I
when
didn't
you,
really
how did
think
the
that
Vita,
I was going to.
How did the
be able
Vita
to.
react when you touched it? And
it's
I knocked some robots out of windows,
Okay.
and I
it's a weird euphemism, but okay. I get it.
failed to rise to the bait offered by my
Failed to rise to the bait. I
coworkers.
understand that one. I get that one a lot.
So it's interesting that they would release this kind of game to the public as opposed to just developers, because it's like the developers are the ones who want to know what the potential
Well,
is.
they want to know, but the people who buy it want to use their new system to do cool stuff. It's basically a tech demo, and a lot of other reviews that I saw were arguing that it should be included with the Vita. It should be packed in because it's
Like a
that
Wii
kind
Sports
of
kind
game.
of.
Yeah, like a Wii Sports showcase of what the Vita can do. It's cheaper than other Vita games. I think it retails at $30 as opposed to 40 or 50.
Yeah.
I had fun with it, and I was impressed with the hardware, but the software and like the UI from the menu screen in terms of and just like
So this was
it's-
a developer issue, not a hardware issue.
correct. I think that, but it's not the developer
When
of
you
the
said you
game.
had a-
Not the developer of the game. The Vita home screen.
Yeah,
like
when
the
you said you
game
had a
menu
software
is just
issue,
fine.
The software issue
The
is
software
Vita
issue is the
software.
Vita software and is the Vita menu that I
The
just
OS.
found
Go-
like
go into that a bit more.
bleh. Like you have well, first off, you have like
Like, why does that
generations of Sony users trained on the cross media bar, and now you just have a jumble cluster of orbs, and an orb pops up for every game you install, and presumably you can organize them and figure out what the various things do eventually. Yeah, and I did as I played around with it a little bit. I did my welcome park stuff. I did that, but like. I don't. It just the.
Why is
It was
why are you
initially
looking at-
distasteful. I don't know. I didn't have a great visceral reaction.
Why
Not
are you looking at the
visceral
Vita
reaction
menu for Little Deviants?
You were talking about the Vita, right?
Well, I'm talking about why you said that the Little Deviants got a 6.0. So
So sorry, it got a 6.0 because the mini games are all pretty shallow and like
Oh,
score
okay.
chasing is fun, but basically you're not. And like a bunch of them repeat, and some of them aren't good. Like
Okay.
are not well done. There's one that's you steer like this to guide your rocket along streets, but then the camera angle within the screen will shift, and then the course is winding, but it doesn't make you, but it will like make you turn, and so instead it'll take control away from you a little bit, which is very disorienting.
okay.
So and the deviants themselves are like these stupid little blobs that are like we're wacky, but have no personality and no appeal at all.
Okay. So then,
Sorry to confuse that.
yeah. So it is in fact then the developer of this software that was of the Little
good.
Deviants itself.
Yeah, solid. I mean, solid.
Wait.
Had some issues, but like
Oh, okay.
the issues I was talking about with software, I was hopping over to the Vita
I
itself,
get it.
not the game
Regino's
specifically.
really struggling to grasp this. I reviewed Hot Shots as like every other Hot Shots, but I'm going to talk about the Vita because that's more interesting, right?
Look who's coming in.
It's Kevin Van Ord.
KVO.
It's Kevin Van Ward.
Hello.
He'll be here in a second.
Way to go to the camera angle where you can't see
But
him.
McShay, get back to your point.
I'm not going to talk about the games. I'm going to talk about the Vita.
Yeah, that's what I want.
The
spent some good time
UI kind of stinks, as
Okay.
Chris pointed out. It's clunky and it's all touch enabled, so you can't even just like quickly hit X to start a game. It's just like kind of a mess. I don't like it.
I don't have a problem with the touch. I mean, it's there. You want to play the game? Boop.
It'd be nice
there
if there was
you
an
go.
option if you could just do both.
But it wouldn't make sense because there is a jumble. It's not organized like the cross-media bar, which
it's a jumble, and I just don't like it. But that's
fair.
That doesn't really matter ultimately because you're there for a second. The hardware itself is friggin' awesome, and I really like it.
What are the big things that stick out? Is it
The
like
big thing is that it's got
touchscreen? Is that what the big draw is?
The screen is really nice to look at. Like it's huge. I think it's like 5 inches or something, and it's OLED, which I don't know what that means except it's the best.
Very crisp.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Because I don't follow this
colors are
tech
good.
stuff, but it just looks great. Like, because I'm playing Hot Shots, which is like whatever from a technical standpoint, and it looks fantastic because the
game
screen
pisses
is
the
so
hell out of
good.
me.
And it just makes me want to play more games on it because it looks so good, and it's like the touch stuff works really well, like you'd expect. It's functional. I think it actually you can touch the screen twice, right? Which you can't do on the 3DS.
Multi-touch, you mean?
Multi-touch. So
I don't know. I don't know about that.
It seems like the hardware is really good. I love the screen. I would love to play more real games on the system because of it, like Uncharted and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's cool.
I mean, there is an Uncharted game.
Yes, stuff like Uncharted would be really cool to play. I don't want to play Chris's crappy game.
Okay, so you've got a glowing review there
Yeah.
for the hardware. Are you planning on buying a Vita at any point in its lifespan?
Maybe not anytime soon, but I have a different position than
Not
most
anytime
people.
soon?
I'm a professional video game reviewer, so I just played Hot Shots, and now I'm going to play a new game. I play the Vita for a living, and then I can borrow it if I want to play it at home.
Okay.
So I don't have to buy it to play the games.
Do you foresee many people who aren't professional game reviewers having the issues that are keeping you from buying this game?
My biggest issue keeping it is that this is my job.
Right.
Like it's nothing wrong with it. I just don't need to buy it to play it.
Well, let's get some perspective because last year if asked at 3DS launch, are you going to buy a 3DS?
Oh, yeah.
You'd say no.
Well, I would have said yes, but no time soon.
Okay.
I usually get
because
Nintendo stuff.
now you're talking like you're approaching the point where you're going to buy a 3DS.
I will get a 3DS when Animal Crossing and a redesign come out.
Okay.
The Vita is not as
All right,
much.
I feel like you've gotten
much.
you've gotten more keen on the 3DS over its lifespan, but I think that's mostly game based, right?
It's mostly game based because I think the 3DS hardware stinks, and I think the Vita hardware and games are both great right now. Like shockingly great launch lineup.
What's shockingly great
great
in the
what do
game lineup? I mean, like Wipeout seems really cool.
Wipeout's really cool.
Is it the
Uncharted.
extensiveness of it
Uncharted
that
seems-
impresses
There's a
you?
bunch of games that are good or better. The 3DS had one game,
Street
Tom
Fighter?
Clancy. Tom Clancy's
Ultimate
a port.
Marvel? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
No, Tom
Not
Clancy.
Street Fighter
Ghost
4
Recon,
was
I-
one of the-
Street Fighter's the 3DS launch game.
Oh, yeah,
It was a
that was-
port. I don't really care about ports. So yes, it has Rayman. It has Marvel's versus Capcom.
Yeah.
I don't care about those. I'm talking about like new games that are good and worth playing, and it has a good library already, which is
New
shocking
games.
to me.
I mean, that's an interesting point because a lot of the I can think of Little Deviants as the one solitary new IP.
well, no, new IP and new games are different. I'm talking about Hot Shots is a new game. Hot Shots is a new game that you can't get anywhere else.
It's a new game that does, like, if you've played a previous Hot Shots, you've basically played this. Wipeout is sort of a remix of previous ones, right?
There are some remix tracks on
I
there,
mean,
but I think
it's Uncharted's a new game.
These are sequels to it. You can't actually. I mean,
Right.
there's a difference between a port and a sequel, and these are sequels.
But I mean,
These are
Mod
sequels to
Nation
games that don't
Racers
change
is
much.
just like a dumbed down version of what we had before with new tracks.
A dumbed down version of a dumb game.
Yeah, Kevin,
Oh,
jump
stop.
in here.
Hi.
You've spent some quality time with this. What is your initial impression with how the Vita feels, looks?
I'm kind of with Tom in a lot of ways. Like, I think the hardware itself is really great. I love the way the sticks feel when I'm playing stuff. Like, they feel absolutely right, shockingly right. Especially because I think like the 6-axis sticks are a little floaty and a little mushy.
Well, how do you compare it to the Circle Pad?
I haven't used the Circle Pad on the DS.
No, not the
so-
Circle Pad
Oh,
Pro,
oh,
the
you
Circle
mean
Pad.
the Circle Pad? Oh, you mean just on the
just the regular
3DS? Oh, it's
3DS.
clearly it's superior.
I agree. Even though the Vita sticks feel like crap when you first touch them, but as soon as you start playing, you're like,
As soon as you start
Like,
playing,
if
they're
you,
the
if you
right.
pick it up
really
and
good.
fiddle around, you're like,
Yeah.
But they feel exactly right. I mean, they
I
don't
know.
feel overly stiff. They don't feel overly loose. They just feel exactly the way they're supposed to. The screen's brilliant. All of and the games I've played so far are good. I mean, it's being billed as like, okay, so this is like console games in your hand, right? And in some cases, that's kind of what they come across as a console game in your hand. My issues are just all with these little niggles that start to like build up over time. I still can't get over. This is really stupid, but I still can't get over plugging in the charger. Have we already talked about this?
No.
Can I mention
actually.
this? This is the stupidest thing ever, and I can't believe this was designed on purpose. You can plug the power cable into the Vita upside down just fine.
It's
but it doesn't
slightly more difficult, but it's not prohibitively difficult.
No, and it doesn't charge that way, obviously. But you just put it in, and that's it. And
So you could plug it in thinking you're going to be charging, and then hours pass and no dice.
yeah, and so and there was a big story I saw maybe on 1UP or something where
Game Informer.
Game Informer, thank you, Game Informer, where they had a whole article on this little bit of stupidity. But it is really silly. Like, I don't own a piece of hardware. Every phone I've ever owned, every mobile phone, you only plug it in one way because that's the only way it goes.
the only way it
And I felt so stupid. You have to watch for the little PS symbol, make sure it's plugged in upright. But it's just like it's not even doesn't even stand out on the cable.
It's like glossy as opposed to the matte background of the cable.
Yeah, so it's really weird. Like, I know that's a really silly thing to point out, but there's
It's pretty
lots
silly.
of stuff like that.
It's
Like,
it's
you go-
weird from just like a UI and
You
like
choose
common
settings,
sense.
and you don't go into settings. You go into settings to go to the settings hub where there's an option for settings.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean, it's,
It's
really
stuff
weird
like
because
that.
It's like with the iPhone, it seems like we have something that's so well designed as far as like a UI perspective goes. These kinds of things are no longer acceptable at all.
well,
you know?
the other thing too that gets me is like the interface doesn't always know what it is. Like, you've got the home screen, which is all your little baubles, right? But then if you leave the game and go into something, suddenly you have this bladed interface that you're using for stuff. Does anybody know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, you press the PS button and it like shrinks the screen you're looking at down to a card, and it's
Right.
got a notched corner that you can swipe to close that program, or you can just swipe the card aside to switch between.
Yeah,
And
so
those
you
are the
just
ones that
got
look like
little
record
cards.
albums that are
Yeah.
in a row. There's some
And
weird UI.
it's fine. It's not like I can't get used to it.
I
but
mean,
if
is
you're
that like
just
an Xbox Live style, like,
Yeah,
remember
it's the same kind of
Xbox
crappy
Live?
quality.
iPod album shuffle.
yeah, it's kind of like iPod album shuffle
Yeah.
more than. And I mean, that it's a thing you can get used to. It's not a huge deal, but if you're sitting down with this device for the first time, like the thing that stuck out is it doesn't immediately have an identity. It doesn't know what it wants to look like and how you want to interact with it. You interact with it in 16 different ways. And I guess that's kind of weird, like, because you know an Apple's device identity as soon as you use it, right?
Right.
Like, that's one of the reasons like the cult of Apple exists, is because there's this uniformity. So, I mean, and again, this isn't big stuff, but it's all these little tiny things that started to drive me a little bonkers, because it's like this.
So it's like combining the worst aspects of Apple's closed garden ecosystem with the worst aspects of like the Android no standards across programs,
Well, I gotta-
interfaces.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
got a
of
question.
weird.
How much do you guys care? Because like the UI stinks.
This is all firmware update.
Well, yeah,
fixable.
this is a
But
lot
like
of this stuff is
just like
be
the new dashboard and the 360 stinks. Like they're awful.
Yeah.
But like I don't really care because I just want to play games.
Yeah.
And these systems are still good at game. Like how much does this actually affect you?
Well, the
Not a
thing
whole
is,
lot.
though, is
Okay.
these devices are being billed as more than just games
Is it?
platforms. these
I mean,
days.
from a marketing standpoint.
If you look at
Yeah.
Sony's like CES presentation this year, they were all over this Sony Entertainment Network, where all of your devices come together in this one ecosystem to form like.
I guess I mean because I only know the one commercial where people are like pretending they're in World War II or whatever Normandy playing the system. What else are they pushing this as? Because right now it just seems like a game platform. What else are they pushing it as?
I know it's
Music and
definitely-
videos.
Yeah, music and video.
I didn't even,
Which is
I guess I
other
haven't even
silly
seen that.
stuff. Like the number of hoops you have to go through to transfer stuff around
Have you
Yeah,
guys tried any of that yet?
is
No.
ridiculous.
I don't really care about
So
that.
you can take, this is a feature that I appreciate as a reviewer. You can take a screenshot of a game while you're playing it by pressing the PS button and the start button at the same time.
Okay.
And that screenshot is saved on the Vita. And then if you connect the Vita to your computer with the USB chart cable, which is, the charger is a 3-part thing. It's Vita to power brick and then power brick to power cable. But that Vita to power grip is a USB cable. You plug it into your computer. You have to install a content management software assistant thing that just boots up every time your computer boots up. And then you can use that to then transfer, like I transferred the pictures to my desktop and now they're published on GameSpot. Like it was really easy and convenient. I think it annoys me that program has to run. It can't just treat it like a USB device.
Right.
And that program now I can't figure out how to get it to not run on my computer.
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen Sony pushing this stuff. It's not like it does everything PS3 campaign. It seems like they're it can do other stuff. It seems like they're pushing it as a games platform.
Well, I mean, they're also definitely pushing it as a way for you to have as like a PS3, PS Vita like complement. It's definitely a complement to the PS3.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like, is this game or is this more than a game? It seems like it's a games platform, and that's what they're pushing it as, even if it does other stuff. I don't know.
Right. It just kind of kills me because if they had this interface thing worked out smoothly, and you fire up your PS3 and you fire up the Vita, and it just kind of actively syncs stuff between there to get anything you downloaded from the one onto the other and pictures back and forth, like that's the sort of thing that the Apple crowd, that the mainstream audience like latches onto and is like, wow, there's no rough edges here, no weird stupid logic.
So what do you want to be able to do? You want to get screenshots.
I want this to act like my phone.
But you
my
have a
smartphone.
phone. You have a smartphone.
But if I'm going to be carrying around this and treat this as a real portable device,
Yeah.
in this day and age, it has to be multifunctioning. Like,
Why? You have a phone for multifunctions. Why do you want this to be multifunctional?
Because I don't want to be.
What do you want to? What do you
carrying around-
specifically want to do with a Vita? I guess. Like, give me
I want
specifics.
to be able to treat my Vita with the same way that I would treat my phone, which
Give me
is being
specifics.
able to do more. Like I have to be able to multitask. With
Give me like
I
actual.
want
What
to
do you
be
want
able
to do?
Check my email on my Vita. I want to.
So
be able
you
to surf
have-
the web. I want to go to YouTube. I want to.
Okay, so you want to
Google
do internet
Maps.
stuff. So you have a Vita on you, hypothetically, and you have a smartphone. Why are you using your Vita over your smartphone?
I'm saying that it's ridiculous to be able or to have Sony ask you to carry not only your phone, which everyone will be carrying, but also this second
Oh.
device.
So you want this to be a phone?
I want this to be a single-use device.
I mean, you can. There's an
Or
internet browser.
an
There's an internet
all-in-one
browser on there. You can go do YouTube,
know, it'd be-
email, all that
terrible
stuff.
internet
that you
browser.
want to
I
use. I mean,
what if I mean I have a phone. I have a smartphone that I like a lot. The games, I don't have any interest in the games. Like, can't I just rail on that for not having interesting games? Because the Vita has interesting games that are really good. My phone does the internet and the phone calling and the texting. Why
the
do I
reason why
need?
you don't have interesting games is because you haven't sought out interesting games.
No, it's because I have an Android, and apparently most of them are on iOS.
There are plenty of interesting games on Android.
There's none that are like, I really want to play that on the Android.
Can I suggest Pinball Arcade, which came out last week from the makers of Williams Pinball Hall of Fame?
And got completely shat upon by
Appetite for distraction. Yeah, I will throw
jeez.
those limey bastards under the bus. GameSpot UK, I'm looking at you. That was an atrocity that you did not just get down on your knees to worship Pinball Arcade on.
and then Brendan Sinclair earns his monthly check from Williams Pinball again.
So Brendan,
It's a very small check, admittedly, but
Brendan, do you feel like this has to be an all-in-one device?
No, I mean, like, all I want this for is I want it to play games like you. I've got a phone to do all that other stuff.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that if Sony took the same approach to it that you see Apple taking to the iPad, if they had worked out interface kinks the way Apple has, then this would sell a lot better and it would be a lot more appealing to people beyond you and me who don't represent even a mainstream
So if
gamer
they-
market, much less the actual mainstream market.
So if it had more than games and it had apps and it had internet.
Yeah.
So you think people would use this instead of their iPhone or iPad?
definitely.
Really?
Or they wouldn't have an iPhone and iPad.
really?
They would get the Vita because they're more interested in games, and then they would have a flip phone or something.
Right.
Like
Do you
that.
want to spend?
Do you actually think this? So you think that people who have an iPhone right now would get rid of their iPhone for this?
No, but
But I,
would
think that
much
there
rather
are a
watch
lot of people
movie.
who don't have a smartphone right now that if they're looking to invest in a piece of technology that can do email, can do games, can do this, then the Vita becomes a more appealing option if it more closely approximates the user experience of one of these smartphone devices. And I think that's what Brendan's getting at is when you have the current standard set by Android, set by iOS, and then you have something like the Vita come out and user interface is inferior and less intuitive, then it's behind the curve.
No, I mean, I guess I
It
understand
becomes
that,
a
but,
barrier
like,
to use.
Isn't there also a standard with games? And generally, games on a dedicated gaming platform are going to be a lot more complex than games that only use a touchscreen device on a phone.
I mean, that's an assumption
that's
that
a-
you're making based on the past, maybe, but it doesn't. Why does that have to be true now?
Well,
My
what can
question is, why is
an
Sony
iOS
adhering to this format of the dedicated gaming device? Like it's a huge missed opportunity for them to, if you're going to be making a handheld device, make it like a phone. Because
See, I would rather
why are
have
you
them
spending so much
specialize
resources
in
behind
one
this?
area than try to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And I'm going to use my phone anyway for internet because it's easy.
See, I'm with Tom on this one in a sense because, like, one reason I think the Wii hit success is that is a gaming machine and
Yeah.
doesn't try to do anything else, right?
That is
And
why
then-
the Wii hit success.
That's one of the reasons.
Well, it's one. I
You
think
knew
it's
what it
one of the
was.
reasons. You know what the Wii is for, right?
they've-
That's what the Wii is
And you
for.
can-
I
and
mean,
it
they've
could be-
tried to
But
branch
they've
out
still
and
done
break out.
the half-ass online.
Yes,
the
they have.
half-ass virtual storefront, the
But, you know,
half-ass virtual console.
Generally
Netflix
speaking,
streaming,
it's
the-
for gaming,
Wait,
right? I
the
think we
virtual
all
console
agree
and the
that you get a
storefront
Wii
are
to
for
play games, and
games.
it's generally a
Right, but they still
dedicated.
did them half-ass.
hang
They
on.
have half-ass features in there, and
Let Kevin finish.
No, I'm good. This is all of us.
Okay.
But and then you've got things like Android phones and iPhones and stuff like that that do a whole bunch of stuff. And then you've got something like the Vita. And I think my issue with I'm totally with Tom, which is like if it's for playing games, it's for playing games, and I'm cool with that. The thing is, like, it does more of that kind of almost into these different areas, but never embracing it. And that's what I think maybe you guys are getting at. Is it like it just kind of half-heartedly reaches into these areas, but doesn't really embrace one particular thing outside of the game
So if
part?
it was,
And that's what
closer
makes it feel
to the 3DS, which
little-
has a clunky browser and stuff, would that be better for you? Because that's clearly a gaming platform, whereas this straddles the line because it can do things.
Look how expensive it is. I mean, you are paying a lot of money for something, in part because research and development went into these things that reached out halfway but didn't quite get there, right? We could potentially be playing less for a thing that plays the same exact games and has the same beautiful screen and the same, wonderful game part of it without the other stuff. And maybe we'd be, and it could be cheaper.
So
that would be
let's-
kind of nice.
So
I
let's say
don't know if
it's
that's true, but
6
maybe.
Let's say
Maybe.
it's 6 months down the line. Okay, the Vita's been out, the firmware's been updated. They've got some apps in there. You can now do a video conference call over the internet through your Vita. You can now browse the internet and check your email easily because the browser's been updated. You have your music store, you have your video store, and now they have, SEN has now added on an Apple-esque app store so that you can play Angry Birds with a Z or something on there. So you have all this stuff. I mean,
So you've
does that
basically
transform does that bring the Vita up to what you guys are sort of hoping it should be
got
at?
an iPod Touch at that point. You've got all of the cool stuff with the of the iPhone, but not the actual iPhone.
Well,
You
so
still
it's
don't have
roughly
that-
no, but it's roughly on par. So say it's roughly on par feature wise
Right.
with those that I just described,
Right.
which is rough. But then it far outstrips that that device in terms of the kind of dedicated games it has.
Right. I mean, there's a
Granted, they're far
reason-
more expensive, but you're still, you can still play a Wipeout, whereas you try to do that on a.
Yeah, would that
There's
be
a
good for
reason
you?
why the iPod Touch doesn't sell anywhere near as much as the iPhone.
So you want all that he described and it to be a phone.
Exactly. I don't.
Okay.
Your argument is kind of the.
Do you know how big
they
this-
can only do one thing well, and it seems like that's not true. Like they
I
can
don't really
do-
want to hold this up
Who
to
wants
my.
the
it's
huge
too
thing to be
big
a phone,
hold.
though?
It would,
it would
be
a
like kicking
terrible
it back to the
phone.
early days of cell phones to hold that thing up to your
It's
face.
massive.
You don't get a
Right.
phone out of this. You either choose this big screen, or you choose a device that's going to let you use
Sony
it
has been
as a
I'd be bumping
phone.
my head into,
Bluetooth
like, the
technology.
analog
Like, you guys, this is not the way that you would interact with it. They would ship it with an earbud or something else.
I don't use
Yeah,
earbuds.
That's true.
And the thing
I
was,
don't
it
like
doesn't even
those.
really fit in your pocket all that comfortably. Where are you going to put the
Where would you
device
put
when
it
you're
anyway?
talking on the?
You're still.
I have it in my
you're still holding
backpack.
my
or
bag.
Yeah, my backpack is.
You're still carrying around a device.
Yeah, but if I'm talking to it on the phone, using it as a phone with the earbuds, I'm not sticking it in my bag and then stringing the earbud to my. I don't know. Like I just,
Bluetooth is no strings.
I guess I don't understand why you think that every device has to be the magical everything device.
because that is where technology is today.
Well, I'm waiting for
I don't
a
agree.
phone that's the magic gaming device.
An iPhone
also.
is not the magic technology device.
I
don't get
that
to
is
play.
the direction that devices are taking or going in.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, the problem for me when you're trying to say that like the iPhone is a magic gaming device, which is what you're arguing basically. I like sticks and buttons.
Right.
That system's not good for that. So
And-
I'm gonna need a dedicated gaming handheld anyway.
We have had phones with the Xperia Play is a perfect example. That thing has 10 buttons on it.
So is that the perfect
No, but I'm
device?
saying that is the direction that people need to be heading in.
So you want an iPhone with buttons? Because that's never going to happen. Because Apple
want-
likes their touch stuff.
But then if
I don't
that's
know
the
why
case,
you would say that would never happen.
then how is something
I've been
like
told
the,
by Apple fanboys that they're just not going to.
then how
have
is something
that
like the
keyboard.
DS and the Wii even possible in your world?
The DS and the Wii?
Yeah,
I'm saying the DS is
they're
on its way out.
outrageously popular though.
And the Wii U is probably going to be Nintendo's last system.
Well, the 3DS has sold 10 million already, roughly. We've already established that it's
I think
success.
sometimes
Compared
people just
to-
want a device that does the thing they want it to do. and
Compared to
doesn't
the
have do
best-selling system of all
100,000
time, the
things that they
3DS
want
is
things
selling
to
better
do.
than the DS at this point in their lives, right? Isn't that what Nintendo says? So, where's your argument that people don't want to get dedicated gaming handhelds?
I am saying that when Sony looks at the PS Vita and they say this sold 10 million units this quarter, this is roughly the same price as an iPhone, and yet the iPhone sold 50 million units this quarter.
It's not
They're going
quite-
to look at that and they're going to say, we have fucked up. There's a huge missed opportunity here. We need to go in that direction.
We should move on.
We're going to move on.
I guess so. I mean, I feel like the whole trend towards everything being the one device just means all these devices are getting crammed with all sorts of things, and like somebody said earlier, a jack of all trades but a master of none. I think that concept is where a lot of these, where that tendency can lead, and so I think that there is room for the Vita as a standalone gaming thing. My issue with it is that you can only have one profile signed into it.
What an awful issue.
That's a weird
here's,
thing too.
I mean, you said it was the same price roughly. I mean, looking at Amazon, an iPhone 4S 16 gigabyte is like $552.
If you buy a plan, which is, I mean, that's kind
The
of a fake
phone
price.
itself is significantly more expensive
That
than
is
the
a
Vita.
fake price because if you buy a contract,
Yeah, if you buy a contract for 2 years and you promise
Right.
them money for $50 a month for 2 years,
And that is the
whatever it
way
is.
the overwhelming majority of people purchase.
I'm
those.
just saying
It's
that, like-
subsidized, so this consumer cost is nowhere near the listed
I
cost.
totally understand this, but
Yeah.
you're talking about subsidizing $600 versus subsidizing $250 if this was an everything device, because the Vita's $250. Like, just talking about how much they cost alone, because if the Vita was a phone, it would have a contract, it would be cheaper. Just talking about them without that contract, it is like 3 times as much money. You can't say they cost the same.
I can say that because functionally they cost the same.
They don't cost the same. That's what do you no.
All right,
I just
listeners,
What are you
if you
talking
bought
about?
if you bought an iPhone 4S for anything
jeez.
other than the contract rate, write in.
No, I didn't. I
That's
didn't
not the
say that. I didn't
point.
say that. If Vita had a contract, if Vita was a phone, it would
Right.
be cheaper too.
It'd
But
be like
you gotta-
$100.
We're comparing apples to apples, and apples to apples. You're talking about much, much, much more expensive technology. Much more, 3 times as much more.
Right, but then once you have the iPhone, you're getting games for $5 a pop.
That's not what we're talking about. He was just talking about the hardware technology themselves were comparable price, and all I'm saying is that it's actually a lot more expensive.
So, but if you're talking
other
about the to the consumer or just to the company to
Whatever
make?
it must be what it costs to make, because why would Apple charge that much if it didn't cost that much to make?
Right,
Because
but what
they
about
won't provide a good
Sony? I
value
mean, are they?
proposition for their
What about?
contract.
Does Apple take a loss on every iPhone
I
sold?
have-
Does Sony take a loss?
I have
on
no
iPhone
idea what it
sold?
actually costs to make. I just know
Sony shouldn't take a loss on every iPhone sold.
on every Vita sold.
I'm talking about the
very
MSRP for
bad.
these
Thank you, Brendan.
devices are way out of proportion. So it's not fair to say they cost the same. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, your argument is not based on enough knowledge. You don't know how much these things actually cost.
I'm only talking about the MSRP. I'm not talking about anything else. That's
And
all I'm
right.
talking about.
I'm telling you
that's
that
the
over the
RP
course of
doesn't
3
actually-
years after buying an iPhone, a 3-year contract plus an iPhone, more expensive than a PlayStation Vita.
Well, if you get a
Yes.
Vita that has 3G service,
Objective
don't you have to
facts.
have a contract for a 3G provider?
No.
Yeah, it's $15 a month.
Yeah, but it's monthly.
It's
And
a monthly.
You can cancel it whenever you want.
Right, it's
so
not
you
a
can have it
bound
for
in
the
for-
first month. Realize that there's no real reason to have 3G for the Vita.
And then cancel it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're paying 175. I don't know how much it is a month for an iPhone, but you're paying a lot more in those 3 years.
It's about
I did 100, is it 75? I don't know how much. We'll say it's $75 a month for 3 years, and you're paying $200 from the get-go for that. It's a lot more expensive for
well,
an
that's
iPhone.
an interesting point too, because if you've got an iPhone or any of these other smartphones, do you think anybody's actually going to spend another $50 for the 3G version of?
No. They don't need it,
I'm
though.
spending the extra money for the 3G version just so that I have the options at some mythical future date if they do something worthwhile with 3G.
Okay.
that I've, but I'm not going to spend
Like when
a
they get
dime.
Hulu Plus streaming over that or something.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I don't know what the future holds.
Brave new
You have the
world.
option, but you don't have
See,
to do it.
for
The system is
me-
perfectly valid without the 3G.
I'm gonna use my phone. Like what I'll do is I'll create a hotspot with my phone, and then just use Wi-Fi
fancy.
Vita to connect that way.
You're going to tether the Vita.
I'll just tether the Vita to my phone, which
and
I
then
I
you'll
just
sit
get
there
around
on the
it.
Muni with your 2 expensive pieces of.
But if I'm gonna have them,
portable-
I'm always gonna have my phone. If I'm gonna have the Vita with me anyway, I'll do that. But then you save. Like to me, if you've already got a smartphone, just tether.
Yeah, this
If you get a
I don't
Vita.
know.
All right, so back to the hardware itself. Have you guys been surprised by anything? There was things that you did not expect from the system, and as you've been playing it for 8-10 hours, whatever, you're like, wow, that was not expected and totally awesome.
I haven't spent all that much time with it.
Well, it's because you're a news guy.
I was surprised by the size of it, though.
The size
Yeah, it's
and the
it's-
weight of it.
It's
the weight,
it's a big system,
and it doesn't weigh that much.
and well, it weighs more than like the PSP 2000 or 3000.
I would say it feels like it weighs less than my iPhone though. Like, or maybe the iPhone's just
It's
more
less
dense.
dense.
It's
It
less
definitely
dense and it's
feels
distributed, but they're comparable, so it feels like it's a lighter device to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
But the iPhone is all metal and this is not metal. That's,
Right.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Just
That
I
is
mean,
surprisingly
That
light.
is totally what I was noticing. Like, I was actually surprised at how light and comfortable this felt in my hand. Like, especially compared to the 3DS, which I feel like is breaking my hand.
it's
whenever
probably
I play.
roughly the same weight, but it feels so much lighter because of the way that the mass is spread out.
Yeah.
It's just it's a really well. The thing that shocked me though is the sticks feel great
Yeah.
because I don't like the circle pad and I really like these.
Yeah, it feels great.
I did
And
not expect that.
I mean, I have big hands. I mean, I'm the only person on earth that like the original Xbox controller,
The Duke.
over the Xbox controller S or whatever. So I don't like playing the PSP a lot of the time because eventually, like, my hands hurt. The same thing on DS and 3DS games if it's like hold heavy as opposed to styleless heavy. And this feels really good. Like I can
know.
play for extended periods of time without my hands ever wanting to.
Isn't it
to
weird?
Get a break.
All right. We're going to move on from the PSP or PS Vita.
PSV.
Excuse me.
PSV.
The PSV. Ooh, is that going to happen? I don't know.
I think it just
let's-
happened.
I think it's safe to
The Vita.
say that the biggest quirk that you guys are upset about is the firmware.
The UI.
Well, there's issues like Justin got his first edition bundle this morning,
Yeah.
and he's been trying to play a game on the system. And the first thing it does is like, hey, give us your PlayStation login network name and password. But that doesn't seem to work. So you have to like go through this like default, log in as a default guest thing, and then set yourself up from there.
I'm not sure if that happens all the time because I had no problem with my system.
I've seen
because I think I'm permanently on my system now, but
Ours, but the ones we got prior to release were already set up for us. With
Oh,
like
are
they
they
came
different?
and they
Okay.
had like GameSpot wallpapers and everything. Like
And I've
they'd already
seen-
set them
Yeah,
up.
they smoothed all that out, and
Yeah.
I remember when we got our Japanese one with John Davison had similar trouble
Oh.
getting it to.
But anyway,
So I've seen a number of people on message boards and stuff also saying that they had this weird problem when they tried to set it up. And I look at that and I compare it to like the Amazon Kindle, which since you buy it from Amazon, they ship it to you and your account information is already tied on there. So you power it up for the first time and it's like, hey, I know you. I've got all your stuff already set up. Do you want to read any of those books or watch movies that you've already got on here? Yeah. And it's like, that is the perfect, like, mainstream audiences would love this, and that's what attracts more people to it, kind of smart design that Sony just doesn't seem to.
But the good news is that this is such an easy fix for them. They just kind of have to tinker with a few things, and therefore it's going to be something that
The
like,
solution
this is
always
a
seems
heartening
like really
kind of-
intelligent and smart when you see it in action,
Yeah.
but to go from the way something is and then just realize, hey, this is the really efficient, streamlined way to do it, I think is actually a lot harder than it looks, which is why we get things like, the PS Vita or the Xbox 360 dashboard right now.
well, I think that the point is that it's a lot easier to fix the problems with the Vita since it's software than the hardware problems of the 3DS, which need a redesign basically.
Exactly.
So that's kind of it. But both are flawed systems right now.
Hopefully not so much in the future. Let's get to a bit of news. This week, I don't know, Eric Hirschberg, publishing CEO at Activision, he actually said this: "It's simply a fallacy to say we're not innovating."
That's accurate, I think.
Yeah? Do you buy it?
I think Skylanders is innovative.
Right. That's Skylanders was one of the things he called out. He also called out Call of Duty Elite and whatever Bungie is working on, and the incremental Modern Warfare 3 updates.
That's where he loses me.
Call of Duty Elite is a little bit more of a stretch, although
On account of Halo Waypoint and everything else.
Yeah, I can't really remember seeing something as big as Call of Duty Elite or Call of Duty, because there hasn't been anything as big as Call of Duty. Pulling off the transition to a subscription sort of plan like this before. So that's sort of like you're innovating in your business model a little. But really Skylanders is the big one that they did that and then pulled it off. Even though, like Captain Power did that back in the day. There is
Captain Power, of course.
If you're going to combine like toys and video games and had its TV show and the toys interacted with it. And but still, Skylander, Activision gets credit for that. Toys for Bob gets credit for that also.
Does everybody else buy into Activision?
Dude, they are totally innovating on that new Bungie product. I mean, all the stuff we know about that, just the way that they're taking old things and inverting them to make them new, and other innovations.
Yeah, they're just making. I mean, they're
just funny to hear him tout their innovation and throw in that Bungie project
and that thing which you don't know anything about, and we're not.
But seriously, I mean, I do think Call of Duty Elite is impressive. Yeah. I don't know if it's innovation so much as expanding on the ideas that of the stat tracking and tips and all that being integrated that other shooters have done for years.
Isn't it just like a paid Halo?
I mean, it's weird.
Back-end system?
Basically. I mean, it's like their idea of innovation and our idea. It's like we're having two completely different conversations. Like our idea of innovation is something that's really groundbreaking and leaping forward, and their idea of iteration seems to be innovation, or it is iteration basically.
My favorite part of that is that like he completely botches the whole argument by saying a very contradictory thing at the end, which is innovation is incremental updates in Call of Duty. That's a complete. Yeah. Those are opposite things. It's either an incremental evolution or it's innovation. Those are different things. How
did this come up?
It's mild innovation. This was during his DICE summit.
You just said it like unasked, or just?
No, there was an interview.
Okay.
After his DICE Summit presentation.
It's just weird that Activision, because it's like they do things really well. They are soulless, into the best possible way for them because they make money. But
it's not their business to innovate. So why? They are innovating.
They're owned by the most powerful developer in the world, but Blizzard doesn't innovate. That's not what they do. They do the same old stuff really well.
Their business is to sell games, and they'll sell more games if they don't say, yes, we're shamelessly cranking out the same.
It's not like Gamasutra is trying to get you. There's no shame in not being innovative. Not everyone's going to innovate, and they are clearly just comfortable in their horrible dark place. I guess
but there's no shame in their horrible dark place.
They make money. It's whatever.
Providing entertainment to millions and millions of people. Those horrible trolls of
people like the same stuff over and over again. EA doesn't innovate either, but they have their partners programs. It's not everyone's going to be like Nintendo, where they anger people with their innovation. Basically, that's not what every company wants to do.
I cannot believe.
Ask Nintendo, the maker of new IPs, just how much they're innovating.
The DS, the Wii, and the 3DS have introduced things to gaming that have never existed before.
I agree with that.
Nintendo is a very innovative company.
In a very specific way.
In a hardware way.
Yeah.
Is what you're highlighting specifically. But
then new Kirby Canvas Curse exists and Wii Sports.
But since we were talking about publishers,
right, but
I was going publisher to publisher as opposed to, hardware maker to publisher.
Wii Sports is innovative. Kirby Canvas Curse is innovative. The hardware allows them to do different things.
You can't say those games are innovative. Those games are direct products of that hardware. It's not.
You could have played Wii Sports.
The innovation happens in the hardware.
It wouldn't have been the same, but.
Kirby Canvas, I don't think, is an obvious application of the hardware. I think it's a good use of it, but Wii Sports is just sort of that's hardware driven.
I think it is a good point. Innovate. I mean, they're not. Good point, though. Yeah, their business is an innovation, and their business is making the kind of awesome entertainment they do, and that cannot involve leaps and bounds of innovation, and it can still be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The other kind of, and this is almost old news at this point. Double Fine absolutely destroys Kickstarter. What the hell happened?
took everyone's
They're up to
money.
About 180 or $1,800,000 at this point. Is this
Up
Is
that
this
which
an
exceeds
anomaly?
4 times their original ask
Yeah,
of
is this an
400,000.
anomaly or is this a game changer?
This is absolutely an anomaly.
Yeah,
This,
agree.
if Kickstarter projects from developers you've heard of were any more common, this would not have gotten as much money. If it were any other developer other than Double Fine, this would not have
Why
gotten
is
as
Double
much
Fine
money.
so special here?
They have so graphic adventure games, especially the ones that Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert made, like Maniac Mansion, Secret of Monkey Island, beloved. They were absolutely the best examples of the genre. The genre does not exist anymore
Poor Telltale.
Exaggerated.
outside of Germany.
False.
Is Telltale German?
No.
Oh,
They're like a couple miles north of us right now.
oh, that's right. They're in.
The genre's
Germany,
dead in the same
California.
way that pinball is dead, we'll say. Which is, for all intents and purposes, it's dead. And
It's a hard thing to say. isn't it?
so yes, it is.
You're talking about pinball or video pinball?
There is a nostalgic pull toward this graphic adventure thing. It's a great story. It's a feel-good story, which in the gaming industry you don't get nearly enough of. What other developer could do this? I mean, you have to have a fan base that you've built up over years and years, but you can't be so big like Bungie or Blizzard that when you go to your fan base with hat in hand saying, give us money, they'll just be like, really? You need money? I've given you so much money, screw you guys.
I know you're going to poo-poo this idea, but what if the ex-Rare employees got together and wanted to do a Kickstarter program?
They would get some money. I don't know if they
It wouldn't be 1.76 million.
Right.
But they would get money because they have a similar type
Yeah.
of thing where like people want
can
that.
get money, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you run down the list of independent developers that hit that sweet spot of like well loved by an affluent fan base, like an older fan base with disposable income is part of it. Hugely respected in the industry, and
there's not many.
not doing so well that people are going to resent them for even asking.
So we have Obsidian, who's saying, "Hey, maybe we'll try this." They're the Planescape Torment guys that had bought.
Oh, I love
And this
it.
sounds
Well,
ridiculous
Black
to
Isle is
me.
a Planescape
This is-
Torment guy.
and this is where
They are
Brendan's
spiritual
argument.
successor to Planescape.
This is where
Or-
Brendan's argument, you just understand where Brendan's coming from, because the idea that I would take money and give it to the makers of the buggiest projects over the last 5-10 years, they're not getting my money because they're not going to make something good with it.
Well,
if-
the thing is that they have their
What if
Kickstarter.
they did though, Kevin?
They have their Kickstarter project, and they're like, look, we want $3 million and someone else's IP. If you guys can give us that, we will
do it.
crank out some buggy piece of crap that's got so much
No.
potential.
They
You
had
guys are
Alpha
going to
Protocol.
love it.
They did have Alpha Protocol, which was a buggy piece.
Which
of
is
crap,
buggy.
but-
But what if, I mean,
Not
does,
crap. It
does
was-
it have to be a developer? What if it's a really good idea? Would that be enough, do you think?
No, because you need someone to
No.
make it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it's like
Good
here,
ideas
we have
are
a prototype
diamonds.
for a game, and it's a really cool thing, and you can play this demo, but we need money to make this final game. So you
Oh,
Right.
so like an unheard of person.
an unheard of person who gives
It's
you the
just
first. If
bedroom
Jonathan
code or
Blow's unheard of gives you the first level of Braid, and you're like, wow, this has some potential. Would you give money to that?
Yeah, I mean, those are already getting made.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu and No Time to Explain, and
'Cause that's-
those are getting funded, but they're getting funded for $9,000 or $30,000.
Well, yes.
It's not 1.8 million. It's not getting funded to the point where, yes, we can have a team of 5 people even just spending an entire year on this project.
Well, it's one of those, because Jonathan Blow was the only guy who really made Braid. Like, you don't need a lot of people. Notch made Minecraft alone, basically. Like, you only need
Chris Hacker is
one
making
or
Spy Party.
two or
You can check
three-
out our podcast on it.
You only need 1 or 2 or 3 people. I think this is a viable way to make. You're not gonna get 1.7, but they only asked for 400,000 anyway. Like, you're not getting. And that's like an
Only.
established. You only need a few.
100
Does-
grand?
It's
no,
going to be
I was gonna say
interesting
dozens of.
If when this game is
24,000
done
maybe.
and they're like, holy crap, if we only would have had 400,000, we would have been completely boned. Like, thank God that happened. How much pressure do you think?
Or
these
if
guys
they
are
have to
under?
like take a money bath at the end of the game and be like, we had to spend it somehow.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with all that extra money.
They're under huge pressure now because
They
all
have
of a
to
sudden
deliver.
they've got like 30,000 people that have already put money into this thing. It's like the ultimate pre-order. It's like, we're going to come up with a game idea in a little bit. Give us your money now. And then 8-9 months down the road, we'll give you something if we can. And all those people are like, they have different ideas about what they want out of an old school graphic adventure. So as soon as Double Fine comes out and says, "Oh, it's sci-fi," some Monkey Island purist will be like, "Oh, I was really hoping that my money was going to a pirate story," or just everyone's got their own thing in mind of what they want, and Double Fine's not going to be able to please all of them, and those people are going to be entitled and vocal. And
Plus you're dealing with feelings of nostalgia, where if I went back and played an adventure game, like as myself now, I'm probably not going to enjoy it as, say, I enjoyed a game in the 90s.
You'll enjoy them differently. And I'm sure Schaefer and Gilbert and the rest of Double Fine has ideas on how they can update and change things. But the most important thing about this Kickstarter thing that I think is phenomenally ballsy by Double Fine, and the most promising thing for the industry as to like how it could change things, is the documentary crew that they're going to have following them around, covering the entire process, start to finish, of a game. Because I think in this industry there are so many just dysfunctional developers and game making processes that we don't find out about. We don't have any knowledge of, because no publisher. Like, you can buy the collector's edition of something, pay your extra $20 and get making of documentaries in the disc. And it's not the making of the game. It's a vignette to sell you on the feature. They almost never tell you, like, yeah, this was totally messed up. Jim was saying we should have this feature, and Joe was saying it should be this one, and they were they were coming to blows about it. And we had a visionary creator at the head of this thing, but he had no sense of how difficult it would be to pull this off, and he was
couldn't get
off the coke, which I hope Schaefer does quit that before we start filming.
You know where that 1.7 million is going? Up the nose. Yeah, I'd like to see like behind the scenes on what happened to Corey Barlog for God of War 2, since he was so much better than
any of Jaffe's games, since he's got such a reputation, or Too Human. How much would you guys love to see what the development of Too Human was like? Or even Psychonauts, going from Microsoft as like an original Xbox launch title it was supposed to be, and then Microsoft saying like, we don't even want to publish this anymore, and then they fall all the way down to Majesco.
It's going to be really difficult for them to make a good game under these circumstances, because I'd imagine there's going to be an immense amount of pressure for them to not cop to their mistakes as they're making them. Because they're going to be like, this will look like, if we go down this road for a month, people will see that we've wasted all this money on this bum idea, but we're too far in now.
Well, I think for one, Gilbert and Schaefer, they know how to make adventure games. And I think they've got enough experience and intelligence about how to make games that they'll
get it right on the first time.
No, but they know what they're doing when they sign up for this. They know what kind of mistakes they make when developing games, and they're apparently fine showing that, warts and all, which is amazing, because they still have to deal with external publishers to get the rest of their games made. And if those external publishers see this documentary and they're like, you guys are a bunch of insane jackals, and I can't believe you snort that much coke.
Right.
Are those publishers going to trust them with, with projects and funding in the future?
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, I don't think anyone there does coke. Just really want to spell that out.
It's more of an 80s thing. Heroin is the new thing.
It's law of percentages at that point. Anyway, we're going to move on.
I got a quick Kickstarter question to wrap it up.
Go for it.
For you guys. So there's a project crops up on Kickstarter, $15,000 to make a mobile game, and it's Sweary.
Wait, iOS game or like?
Is this a hypothetical?
Yeah, hypothetical. Would you donate to that?
If it's handheld, yes. If it's mobile, no.
Wait, I missed the
Sweary from Deadly Premonition. He was in the studio. Kind of crazy.
Okay. Yes, I would.
You don't even have a phone that could play it, though.
I still have my old iPhone. I can use it as an iPod Touch. But even it doesn't even matter. I mean, part of this for a lot of people is the game doesn't even matter to some of these people.
Yeah.
This is supporting a developer that has reached out to you because they need you, and they've earned that goodwill by creativity, by long established history.
And Sweary is a guy that fits perfectly in that mold of like, who would you give this money to?
Yeah, if it's Itagaki, I'm not giving you anything. If it's Sweary, yes, you can have my money. You know what I mean? Like there are these. You just know where that sweet spot is when somebody provides that hypothetical. You know what I mean? And this guy is one of those guys. You know, Double Fine is one of those guys. But it's a small club.
Yeah, and if any of these projects get pulled off, like if Double Fine's game is a success, they can't go back to Kickstarter and say, hey, give us more money for another game.
Hurry up, we want to make the sequel.
I don't think so, because if the game's a success, they've got all that money from it selling to other people who didn't back it originally. That it's like, well, what about that money you guys just made? Can't you pour that into your next game?
Yeah. This isn't going to sustain a developer.
It'd be pretty nice if Peter Molyneux did this. If he left Lionhead and is like, I'm sick of making the same crap over. I want to do what I used to do.
If Peter Molyneux,
I'm gonna start making games based on Peter Molyneux's tweets.
Peter Molyneux could raise a lot of money because he's like brilliant and he's being wasted by Microsoft.
Good.
Only of his Kickstarter projects.
Dude, an idea in 140 characters does not translate into any kind of design pedigree.
He's the real
man.
Okay, you said do. Sorry.
No, I did. I said do.
He said yeah.
I got
Peter
confused.
Molyneux should do this.
I would only give him money if his entire premise was all the games he was going to make were first-person shooter re-envisionings of his previous games.
I would be fine with anything he did.
First-person shooter, Populous Theme Hospital, Dungeon Keeper.
It'd be great to like break out these developers who are stuck in the same cycle of crushing.
If he was like, all right, I'm going to make Indicate, and it'll be like my old
Indicate.
It'll be
INDIE.
I don't know.
CATE.
If it were Sid Meier, would you give money? I bet you Sid Meier's in that somewhere around that sweet spot.
Well, if he was making his own like new Railroad Tycoon, I could see that happening, because that's also a game that wouldn't get funded by the big publisher, I don't think.
I mean, it's just really weird because it's like you need to be a celebrity developer. I mean,
but not too big of a celebrity.
Thing.
Cliff Blazinski's not going to come to any of us and ask for money. That's not just buying his game. It's like, F no, I'm not giving you money on Kickstarter to make your next game.
What if he left Epic and was making his own? Like, would you have given David Jaffe money to make Calling All Cars? Or
No.
Was that?
No, I don't think he's in that sweet spot. No. I don't think Dennis Dyack is in that sweet spot.
I want a 2 Human 2.
I think there are developers. I think you have to have a certain humility as part of this being in this exclusive club, and I don't think that David Jaffe is
because
humble.
you need the perception that you're not able to call your own shots.
Right.
And someone that's a braggart or boastful or just like out there and always projecting that utter confidence to the world isn't going to be able to.
That's why I brought Itagaki up specifically, because here you have somebody that's so uber confident that you're not inclined to give this person your money.
Well, who would make the most money if they asked for it? Is it Shigs? If he actually left Nintendo, would he get the most money of anyone?
If he asks for a dime, I am going to be so furious.
I think being associated with huge commercial success is an utter liability when it comes to this. I mean, you'd think Tim Schafer and Ron Gilbert.
Shigs would get a lot of money. If Shigs left Nintendo and it's like, I have a 3-man team and I need money.
First of all,
you don't think it'd get $5 million within like an hour?
I don't think that guy could operate.
I don't know.
Nintendo.
I don't think so. I mean,
who would get the most money?
Because they need to be somewhat sympathetic. Like Tim Schafer or Ron Gilbert, you're like, oh, you guys made your name on a genre that's not as popular anymore. Oh, Tim Schafer, you've been giving it the old college try, and you've had some successes, but like, not real big ones. Not breakout hit. Not make yourself comfortable as a developer.
So is Tim Schafer like the peak of this?
I think
this is like the perfect storm of Kickstarter nostalgia, a personality appeal, like drawing on nostalgia from multiple generations of gaming.
Because if Shigs goes to the public and asks for money, he'll get lots of money, but it won't be as much as he would get from THQ or EA or any publisher. Just saying,
Activision
I've left Nintendo. I want 4 dudes, and I will get you an iOS game within a year. What publisher isn't going to bend over backwards or forwards?
Isn't just out of hand going to be like, all right, $2 million, don't care. If
so
I
much
lose
more.
This money, it's worth it.
They would bet the farm on it. Every last one of them.
Every last farm. Okay.
We're going to move on. 10 years ago, this week in reviews. 10 years ago, this week was actually a really hot week. 8.5. Not temperature as far as radiating heat from the pile of games.
Oh, jeez.
8.5. In order to become a game publisher that stands out from the crowd, a company has to carve its own niche. EA is best known for its sports lineup. Nintendo's software is typically family-friendly, and Midway is known for its largely arcade-style roster. Rockstar Games is quickly gaining a reputation for publishing games that manage to be both insanely fun and completely adult in nature. The company's freestyle crime slant has led to games like Smuggler's Run, Midnight Club, and the universally acclaimed Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, hot on the heels of GTA 3, Rockstar is back with this game, an action-packed riot simulator filled with so much...
State of emergency.
There was no way. I mean, it was so
You could have just
easy.
said the phrase riot simulator.
Riot simulator.
That
That's a
game was
lot of talk
terrible.
about stuff that matters nothing in a review, by the way.
That's
Yeah.
Jeff
Like-
Gersman.
All of that? Poor Jeff.
Wait,
I'm
what was
sorry,
that
Jeff.
completely
Under
thing? He
the
said
bus.
something completely that was kind of ridiculous.
There was so much going on there that was so irrelevant.
Yeah.
Stuff that we wouldn't write today.
I actually hadn't heard of this game. I guess that's just me.
It was a
Really?
game that people played at E3 for 5 minutes and were like, game a show. And then they played for 10 minutes when it came out and they're like, holy crap. This sucks. It's repetitive.
Totally overshadowed Grand Theft Auto 3 at E3.
Yeah.
There were 2 units of state of emergency that everyone was swarmed around, and then on the backside there was one of GTA 3 that like no one touched.
Is this true?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
That's a
I got
story.
another one for you. 8.7.
Wait. We gave an 8.5 to state of emergency?
We did.
Holy jeez.
That's a high score.
That's like 4 points too high.
I don't want to take responsibility. Anyway, 8.7. The rhythm game genre has always been fertile ground for a special brand of eccentric Japanese pop culture weirdness.
Guitar Man?
Guitar Man.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Kelly,
I love Guitar Man.
what is Guitar Man?
It's a game that I
Give me a
love.
quick summary.
It's a rhythm game, not a music game, where there's awesome music in the background and you use the stick to guide around a rope, kind of, that's going like this. So
Okay.
it's kind of tough. It's incredible. The music is great.
Last time Koei made a good game.
Dynasty Warriors is yeah.
Also out this week, I'm not going to read these, but Puyo Pop was out this week.
Puyo Pop,
Puyo
the
Pop?
Sega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The good one, apparently. There's been a bunch.
We wouldn't have guessed that one.
And then Super Mario World Super Advanced 2, which we gave an insanely high score.
Which one is that?
I think it's...
What's the real game? Yoshi's Island?
I'm not sure.
Super Mario World.
I think it's just Super Mario World.
Oh, that's a good game.
Game Boy Advance launch title.
That's a good, very good game.
So this would have been the Japanese launch of the Game Boy Advance 10 years ago this week, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because the American
Expect me to do
system
some
launched
research for this?
in
It's-
March, I believe.
Unreasonable, Brendan.
I think May, but you know.
One of the crazy M months.
Good
I wanna read
launch.
a
Circle of the
question.
Moon, Fire Pro Wrestling.
Choo Choo Rocket, the superior version.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Stop talking about Choo Choo Rocket. Warned you. Anyway.
It was June, by the way.
WCK619 writes in an era where games are almost constantly connected to the internet, gaming companies have adopted the trend of releasing a game early and polishing it through updates. However, reviews are so often made of the initial copy of a game and never updated. Once a game goes through a year of bug fixes and improved content, the initial score and review the game received becomes obsolete. Frustrating aspects that could have brought the score down become fixed, and interesting aspects are expanded. Should reviewers feel obligated to update their articles in this new era of constantly updated games? We get this question a lot. Kevin Van Ordgo.
Yay.
Everybody's turning to me for answers. I don't yet know the answer to that question, honestly. This is something that we bandy about a lot, about how to cover games once they're released and whether or not we go back and reevaluate them. I'm inclined to say that for now, I like the idea of a review being a snapshot of what a game was at the particular time it was reviewed, in part because the kind of man hours that would be required for us to constantly go back consistently. Because the question is then, how do we apply that consistently across an entire library of games as opposed to games that we simply pick and choose? If we pick Battlefield but don't pick Call of Duty for that kind of treatment, then we've suddenly lost that game. You know what I mean? Like, the only way that that manifests is if you can apply it consistently across 100% of games. That's impossible.
And especially when you're dealing with games that are they're relying on the multiplayer experience, like keeping tabs on a multiplayer community over the course of years, like that. I mean, like Kevin said, you're talking about logistics. Do we have the hours in the day? Do we have the manpower?
And does
to
it matter?
do that?
When we're reviewing something, it's generally a buyer's guide regarding what this game is at the time that it comes out. A year later, how many people are actually thinking to themselves, I see this game on a shelf. Should I buy it? At
When
this
it's
point,
$20.
right. At this point, there are so many resources out there for you to know how this game has grown that an actual review release review of that game probably isn't going to tell you what you need to know anyway. So our trick is more about not re-reviewing games, but how to cover the games in ways that make sense as time goes on once it's released. And that could potentially be discussions about how the game has grown, or how it's improved in quality or not improved in quality. But that's not the same as going back and re-reviewing it, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. But we will discuss those games, write articles about those games, and so on once they're out, that hopefully can still provide insight as to how they've grown over time.
And this is a pretty unique problem to like game reviewing. Like, you don't have this problem with movie reviewing or...
What about reviewing books like Mass Effect? That thing got a patch.
Did it get a patch?
Yeah, totally got a patch.
What about
working on a
reviewing
patch.
Star Wars every time they re-release it with new crap added on?
Oh,
I'm
God.
sure people do that. I have no doubt that people do that. But yeah, it's a very interesting, unique problem. And whatever. Housekeeping. Pop quiz hotspot. Do we have more listeners in Poland or Italy? Poland or Italy?
Poland.
Poland?
I'm with Italy.
I'm going to guess Italy.
It's Poland. 16 to 12. Everybody in Poland and Italy, hi. Also, if you are wanting to send us a comment, correction, clarification, etc., I have kind of come up with a new way to do this. Send me your email, hotspot@gamespot.com. In the hotspot page itself on gamespot.com, like if you go to the culture tab up top and then pull down to hotspot podcast, there's a page there. You can click on that, and I will be posting either your way too long email, or if you have like some MS Paint that you'd like me to throw on there, I can do that too. But that is something that is an option to you now if you want to write us a novel. I'll post it word for word. I don't care.
Please don't make a gross paint thing and send it and make us put it up on that page.
Because I have no filter. I will put it up.
He's right. He doesn't have a filter.
I mean,
This
just a
is
pictorial
problem.
representation of the first 10 minutes of this podcast
Right.
would be gruesome enough.
In
Oh, I missed it.
Challenge to you. Make that not gruesome. The first 10 minutes of this podcast.
If you can work in a Cancho reference,
Right,
Magrino's a
Cancho.
big
So
fan
in
of that.
visual form using MS Paint, you want somebody to come up with the first 10 minutes of this podcast that I missed.
Right.
Okay. I'm not going to listen then. I want my impression
Okay.
of the first 10 minutes of the podcast to be solely from this image.
I don't even remember the first 10 minutes.
Oh, it's okay.
I
It's okay. It's okay.
I think I
There
blacked
are
out.
some things you can't
That's
unhear.
called selective memory.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Defensive memory.
No, it came back. The Flash.
Anyway, if you like podcasts, check out the GameSpot UK podcast or the OzSpot. What else? Do you guys have anything you want to pimp? Our feature, Brandon and my feature, it's up there. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
fine.
point counterpoint editorial about whether or not handheld gaming is doomed, where I argue that handheld gaming is not doomed, and Magrino kind of throws his feces around in
All right.
text form.
It's true.
We're giving away a Vita on the spot tomorrow.
Oh, that's
or
right.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Vita. That'll be cool. We should do that.
Yeah, you could get a free Vita.
Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, that does it for this week. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Brendan Sinclair,
Hey.
Tom Shea, Kevin Van and Chris Waters.
See you guys.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hotspot out!